Hello, friends and fans. Welcome to A Gotta Getaway. If you're new here, I'm Lena, and today we're doing another crafting live stream. This is my second one, so it's now officially a regular thing, at least until I have a convention the first weekend of the month. I don't know why I started with the top-down cam on. It's extremely distracting for me to see my hands doing this, but anyway, welcome friends. Today we're going to be making a headbow, kind of like the one that I'm wearing right now. I am going to give the people a couple of minutes to come in and meander in and whatnot before I actually start the sewing project. The one I'm wearing right now is actually, hi Chris, hello beautiful goblin wife. The one I'm wearing right now is a meta headbow, but I've made several at this point that are very similar to this, and we're gonna make some that are similar to this today. I have already prepped the various stages of these headbows, just in part because I was working on some, and then I put up a thing in my Discord letting people vote on if they wanted to do a headbow, a skirt, or wrist cuffs this month. Because I think at the end of this month, I still have to confirm things, but me and Belladonna, the designers of Belladonna, Rachel and Michelle, and I might be doing a wrist cuff challenge sew-a-thon. So that's very exciting. Definitely check back for that. I'll have more information about the wrist cuff sew-a-thon in my Discord, and they will have it in their Discord whenever that is ready. And okay, it's been a couple minutes. Let's get started before just like too much time elapses and I just stand here talking for 5 minutes. So let me know, guys, if you can hear me well enough, which is probably the thing I should have started with, is let me know if you can hear me well enough. We're going to sew some headbows today. I am using, this is a fat quarter that I got from the Dollar Tree. You guys can kind of see it's from their crafting section. It's not the worst quality cotton. It's not the best quality either, but it comes in a bunch of different colors and a bunch of different prints. And I like fat quarters for this project. You can use actual yardage and it'll save you a step. I have right here, this is a scrap from a upcoming release. I have two pieces. One is just a single, well, it's a double wide, but it's just a single strip that is half the length of the full yardage, and then I have one strip that is the whole length of the yardage. So if anybody doesn't know what a fat quarter is, the short and long is a fat quarter is if you took a yard of fabric or half a yard of fabric and you cut it in half along the selvage. So this is the selvage of the fabric. This is a half a yard, but then instead of it being, or this is half a yard, and instead of it being half a yard of fabric, they cut the top half of it off, and then you have two fat quarters. So we're going to be using this. I recommend ironing these before you get started, but I'm not going to do that. A fat quarter is literally all you need for this whole project. And like I said, you can use whole yardage. It just saves you one step in the whole process. So now that we have our fat quarter here, what do we do with it? Well, I tend to keep it folded in 2 quarters. And then I fold this quarter into thirds. This is not cut the straightest. I'm just going to try and press it out. Okay, so now we have the quarter. And what I'm going to do is make a fold here like that. So you've got 2 pieces. It's technically 4. And you want the top fold to be wider than what the bottom part is, because what this bottom part is going to be is we're going to cut this up, and I know I have one pre-cut here. Okay, we're going to cut it into strips, and we're going to sew 2 of those strips together so that we have it be the full length like this guy is. And then the thinner part, we're going to fold that in half and sew it into a channel, and that'll be used to cover the headband if you need to cover a headband. If you don't need to cover a headband, well, you just have an extra bit of fabric. But where are my headband covers? I have pre-covered headbands because I prepped every stage of this ahead of time because I was working on these. That's a pre-covered headband, or a recovered headband. All right, put that over there for now. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this down. First, I'm going to cut that fold. Those are not the scissors I want. These are the scissors I want. My ADHD is real bad today, guys. And I'm going to try and stay on task and on focused. But you're going to notice it. If you didn't notice it in the last live stream, well, there's a reason I don't typically do live streams. You could also like trace these. I'm glad I'm not the only one struggling today. All right, so now we have 4 strips that are the width that I want the head bow to be. I don't do an exact measurement. I mean, let me figure out where one of my measuring tapes are, and I can get you guys an exact measurement for how wide this guy is. This is just a very general, quick and dirty kind of how to throw these things together. I have a bunch of measuring tapes just off screen. Okay, so he is about 4 inches wide, a little less than that, but that's what we're going to aim for. Now, the way we're going to do this today is a little bit different from the way I typically do them. Now I'm on my cable, sorry guys. Dear chair, thank you. All right, the way I do this is going to be a little bit different from my usual head bow kind of situation that I would do. So the first one I'm going to sew it I'm going to break it up into just the steps, and then we're going to sew one all the way through together if it doesn't take me a whole hour to do the different steps. That's the plan, at least, because I've got, or should I do it the other way around? I should probably do it the other way around, where I do it all the way through and then we go to the different steps and we go over all that. Okay, so here we have the strips of fabric that are the smaller ones. We got 2 smaller ones and we have 4 of the bigger ones. The 4 bigger ones as I mentioned. Hello, Phyllis. Hi, friend. The bigger ones will be sewn together like this, right in the center. If you're not working with a fat quarter, you can literally just cut. I've said this 4 times now, but you can just cut a whole strip of the yardage. I aim for around 4 inches, but this is obviously a little bit wider than that, and these are a little bit thinner. But we're going to sew them together, and we're going to sew the tubes. The tubes are for the headband, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. Okay, so I'm going to apologize in advance because I'm wearing my more sensitive mic. You guys will have to let me know how loud the sewing machine is. If I need to mute my second mic while I'm sewing, just so that he doesn't blow out all of our eardrums, because that would be bad. I don't think he will, but it'll definitely be grindy and maybe bad for some people. That or it's ASMR. Okay, where's my pedal foot? So we're going to sew just a straight stitch. I have my length set to 3. As a regular straight stitch, we're going to go and do a back stitch at the beginning and at the end. I don't know if you guys can see that. But so, if you don't know what a back stitch is, it literally is just like when I start, I then use the reverse pedal foot and go back a few different stitches, and then I let it sew, and then I do another one at each end. So we're going to do this to both of these because I'm going to make this first one nicer than the way I typically make them, and then I'll show you guys the like messier way of doing it. Okay, cool. Machine is not too loud. Sweet. All right. We're going to do the second one now and sew this together. So the nice thing about this is the nicer way of doing them. There's 2 different ways of doing it. So I guess that's what I'm doing is I'm showing you guys the 2 different ways of making the exact same thing. All right, now we have 2 strips that are going to be the same length. Both of them are attached to the center. And we're going to take one of them and we're going to add lace to that. And then after we have lace on it, we'll sandwich the 2 together and then flip them out so that we have a tube that will be the main head bow piece. So I think I'm going to make this one for myself. And here's the lace I'm going to be using. So we have 2 different mesh laces. This one is like a double-sided one that has a really nice scallop design on both sides and then little dots. And then I'm torn between using this shorter one and using this longer guy. Because if I use the longer guy, I should probably gather it. And that will make life more complicated, but it'll look nicer. So real quick in the comments, guys, I guess vote. Do you want the longer gathered lace on this one? Because the other one will just have straight flat lace. Not quite this one, but the other one. So these are your 2 options. The short guy will just go on flat, and then the wider one has to be gathered. What do you guys think? The shorter one? The shorter one does make life easier, but I'm going to be making a second one that will be easier anyway. So this one is the more complicated to begin with. Short boy. We got 2 votes for short boy. There's 2 more people in the... I see 2 more people. Who else? Anybody else? I need 1 more vote. 1 more vote. Is long man going to be exiled? Gather. See, that's why I should do the gathering, so you guys can see how that happens. Let me find the end of this lace. Okay. I've made a mess. There we go. Okay. The trick here with gathering. See, I just needed 1 person to actually validate what I actually wanted to do, so thank you, Lily. What we're going to do, this is a heavy-duty Brother. I could not tell you the model name, but I know it's the mid-tier out of the 3 different options for the heavy-duty. And it works very similar to your basic home machine. It's a little bit more heavy-duty, hence the name. And since I do sew a lot, but I'm also like not looking to invest over $1,000 in a sewing machine, these are great. I have 2 of them, and one of them is about 8 years old now, and this one is about 4. And they're still doing great. I just do basic maintenance on them. But the thing is, I don't know what I want to do. I just needed somebody to give me the push. And for this, I don't know what I want to do. You can't ask me what I want to do because I literally am like such bad ADHD today. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I have the machine set on the straight stitch. I'm not even going to change my settings because with this machine, I highly recommend playing with your tensions and your stitch length when it comes to gathering stuff. You can have the machine do it for you. For this machine, if I have it just at the regular stitch length of 5, and then I'm going to turn my tension, my standard tension, I tend to keep it at 3. I'm going to turn that up to 4.5, and you're going to see how tight it gathers it. And it'll gather it pretty tight because this is a very thin mesh fabric as opposed to a mid-weight cotton. And so it has a lot to do with like the actual weight of the fabric. It'll also gather lace fabrics and chiffons for me, although chiffon is the devil, and that's why I don't work with it much. So I'm just going to stick this on here, and whew, I've made a mess of this lace, but that's fine. All right, here we go. And you can see here, maybe not, let me gather a bit more. The faster I press on the pedal foot too, the tighter it'll make the gathers. It's really interesting. But I don't want to, like I said before, I don't want to blow out y'all's eardrums. So all right. You can see it is slightly gathered. I don't want the gathers to be too tight because then it'll make it more difficult to actually lay it down. But where's my camera? You can see the little gathers in there. I can make this be super, super ruched, like everything is just at a very small point. Or this is how I prefer my gathers when I'm doing like hems on stuff and whatnot. So to make sure I have only as much as what I need, this is a trick that I do when I'm sewing all of these things. Let me clean up my area real quick. Okay, so we're going to take this guy. And where did I just put the edge? There it is. I'm going to pin it on the right side as I gather it. That way I know when I finish, I have the exact amount that I need. You guys ready to watch me pin for 10 minutes? It's not actually going to take 10 minutes, but that's the joke. Go ahead and gather a bit more. I probably need about another 6 inches for one side, and then I'll switch over and gather the other. What is it that you are not understanding about what I'm talking about? Is it the numbers in relation to how I'm getting this result? Or, because most machines have there's usually 3 or 4 minimum different wheels that are on your sewing machine. There's one for the needle position. There's one for how long your stitches actually are. So if it's like at a 1, it'd be like super, super teeny tiny, super close. If it's at like a 4, it would be like big distances between each stitch. And that's like for if you were doing a just like a mock-up, a test stitch. Or if you're making something that you doesn't need to be like, isn't going to be used heavily. Oh, the pinning was boring. The pinning is boring. This is, I think, the least, I find the pinning boring. Okay, I have enough for one side. I'm gonna go ahead and pin that all in place. Oh, I hate that this is a fold here, but that's what I get for not ironing. Guys, don't be like me. Always iron your fabric before you start a project. It makes your life so much easier. There's like a tiny little fold right here. I hate ironing. I really do. My personal vice. I won't iron, and I only drink water if it's carbonated. Which water break? Have you all had any water today? You should probably go have some water. I'm gonna have a sip of water. That SodaStream was the best thrift find I've had in a very long time, and probably will have going forward. The downside of always ironing. Oh no, don't burn yourself. Well, that's a bad idea. Don't do that either. Okay, I'm just going to take this off because I didn't actually make that much more than what I needed. I don't know if you guys can see. It's only a couple of inches, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this off of there. Finish pinning this, and then I'll pull out those extra couple inches that I made and then just stitch the other side. Now what I'm going to do, I'm not going to show you guys in too much detail, but before I cut the lace, I'm just going to pull out the stitches using a straight pen so I can get into where that stitch is and pull it right out. Now those gathers are gone. And I don't have to worry about it ungathering itself while I'm waiting to sew it on to the guy. Although I did just cut the thread, which was what I was trying to avoid. That's fine. We're doing a good job here, guys. Great work. Drink water, Chris. All right, so that's one side, all with lace. I pin the right side to the right. Well, I guess it doesn't matter at this point if I've pinned the right side to which side, so long as I make sure that I know which side is going to be the right one, and that when I pin this one on, it's going to be the right side. All right, round two. I have to rewind this entire ball of lace when I'm done with this. Okay, that should be close. Which side is the right side? This side is the right side. So even with mesh embroidered lace, there's a right side and a wrong side, just like with fabric. And that's because it's embroidered. And so one side is the bottom side that got, like, is the bottom part of the embroidery that is a little bit messier than the top side. And that's all I'm checking for. All right, time for some more riveting, pinning content. Because of the way that I've pinned this on here, this will end up being the bottom of the head bow. And it doesn't matter if you pin the lace on the top or the bottom, so long as everything's facing the right way at the end. And the reason why that matters is just because I have this second lace that I want to put on the other guy, which I could have just put on this one, but that actually makes my life easier, because if I was going to put it on this one, I probably should have done it before I sewed all of this lace on, or pinned all this lace on here. But the order of operations is not super important, as long as you do get these things. Like, you have to attach the lace first, and to whichever parts you're going to attach it to, and then you can close them up. That's what comes next. We're not there yet, though. I was like, oh, this will only take like an hour. This one bow might take like an hour. That's because I'm sewing it all from scratch. Pivoting. Well, if we wanted to get riveting, one of the future craft streams, I do have a rivet press. We could make something that is actually riveted. If we want actual riveting content on this channel. I think I know my fans and followers, and that does seem like a thing you guys would be into, if for no other reason than the pun. Okay, I need literally like 2 more inches. Yeah, so I got a rivet press about a month ago. Like, I think it might have even been in June, not July. And I had full intent of pulling him out and making some stuff in July. And then July happened. And so I did not get any of my riveting content finished. All right. Last 2 pins. Go ahead and get this from this thread. I have this is a thread cutter that's right here on my machine. Excellent invention. Whoever invented that, good job. There we go. Okay, now to toss this lace aside to be a problem for my future self. This is what he looks like with all of the lace just pinned on it. It is, we're gonna go ahead and sew that on now. And I'm gonna switch my tension back down to where I usually keep it when I'm sewing on cotton fabrics. And I'm not going to change anything else, because that was the only thing that I changed when I was patching or gathering the lace. And so what I'm going to do is, as I sew, you can't see it because this is a little bright, I'm going to pull out the straight pin right before it gets to the actual needle. And I'm actually going to follow where the stitch already is on the lace and use that as my guide for a straight line, and just try and make sure that it is the same distance from using my stitch guides on the actual machine. I'm just going to do that for both sides. And I don't think that there's any more details needed for this particular step, at least. This is going to be very similar to the head bows that I had at Techo. This is like the upgraded version though, because I don't take the time to do this every day to make this guy specifically. I typically use a shorter Clooney lace for the ones that I make for my shop, which I actually have a few of those like prepped, but at the end when I do the simpler version, that's what I'm going to do, is the one that I typically make for my shop. Just making sure that when I sew over, I'm at like the middle point where I joined the two halves of the fat quarter together, that like I'm keeping that seam pressed flat. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I'll show it to you guys at the end. If that doesn't stay flat, that's not a deal breaker. I cannot tell you how strong the urge is to just sew over the straight pins, but that would be a bad example. The head bow, okay. The head bow we're making today is similar to the ones that I make. I don't know if I'm going to sell this one yet. It might be for personal use, but this is a head bow I'm making specifically for the live stream. So you guys can kind of see here how I made sure that this seam stayed flat when I sewed over it. Again, if I actually ironed things, I would press the seam flat just because it'll lay better overall. But yeah, no, this isn't any special order. I don't really take special orders. I don't have time for special orders, to be honest. I'm still working through my backlog of orders, even though my shop is reopened. I have extremely limited MTOs, and most of what is available is in fact ready to ship. That's how I'm getting away with being open right now. Although it is taking me like 2 weeks to ship stuff that even is ready to ship, just because a combination of ADHD and the amount of work I have to do. I break needles all the time. It is my favorite pastime. During the Belladonna monthly live stream, I think 2 months ago, they were playing a game of Would You Rather, and it was like, would you rather break a needle or run out of bobbin thread? And I would so much rather break a needle. Like, I've had them hit me in the face before, but I got glasses, I am blind, so I don't have to worry about it hitting me in the eye. I felt it hit me like in my face a few times, but you can't, like, my bobbin, I have a top loader, so it's right here. I can kind of tell when he's running low. But when I'm in the middle of sewing a project and then I continue sewing, I hate that. When I run out of thread, just like mid-project, and don't notice it and keep sewing, that is the worst. I would so much rather break a needle, because then, you know, if the needle is broken, you cannot continue sewing. Like, there is no longer a needle to sew with. So you automatically know that you have to fix that. The warning system is built into the problem. I think when I'm sewing and I hit a straight pin, though, I'm more likely to just bend the straight pin than I am to break the needle. Oh, I love the machines that have the auto stop when your bobbin runs out. I've used one of those before. But like, okay, I mentioned this at the beginning. I'll say it again now. I'm not ready to spend like over $1,000 on a sewing machine, even though I sew every day. I have 2 Singer heavy duties, whatever the middle tier of this model is, because there are 3 tiers. And I've had one of them is like 8, and this one is like 4. I still love them both. The 8-year-old one definitely needs to go in for some service soon, but for the price, for what they are, I think these are good machines. I'm happy with them. Do I still want a long arm quilting machine that's half computerized and will tell me when the bobbin runs out kind of stuff? Yes. But not right now. One day. I guess if anybody wanted to buy this Headbow at the end of the live stream, just send me a DM on something. If anyone watching the replay wants to buy this Headbow, send me a DM on something. I used to have a brother before this current machine, and I liked him. He was fine, but it was a more basic model. My embroidery machine is a brother as well, and I got the both of the Singers I had. I got as one of them was a summer sale, the other one was a Black Friday sale. But it's still just like a price point that's a little outside of my means right now, is all. They're good machines, though. I do recommend it. If you have the money to spend on them, do it. Having good equipment is like, oof, so good. Not that anything's wrong with mine. Mine are good. I like mine. I use them. So you can see we've got the lace is attached now. It's going to look like that when he's open, but we're not at that point yet. So we're going to just go ahead and put this aside, and we're going to do the top now. So the top piece is going to be very simple. We're just going to I'm going to finger press this seam open. This is where the 2 pieces meet. And finger pressing is literally just, I'm spreading it and I'm pressing it flat with my fingers and stretching the fabric as I do it. And that helps it stay open a little bit better. Would it be better if I ironed it? Yes. Should I iron it? Also yes. Am I going to iron it? No. Now, for this step, I would recommend all of you, if and when you do this at home, to pin it in place all the way down. I'm not going to, though. But I have to put the disclaimer here that I recommend you do that. I'm going to have some water now. I feel like last live stream I talked for 2 hours without any water, so this time I made sure I had water. Although I did also have water last live stream. So when I sew, I'm just going to try and stay into that middle part where it is a solid white. And I am keeping it like centered all the way down, which if I pinned it, then I wouldn't have to like make sure, because he would just be there. You should pin things. I don't always have the patience for pinning stuff, though. I am not going to lie. So I originally bought this lace for wrist cuffs, and everything we're using basically today, except for the cotton, will also probably be when I do the wrist cuff live stream, in that live stream. I like to make slightly nicer versions of everything I currently make on, you know, I don't mass produce things because it's just me sewing them in my house, but I do make them on a bigger scale. All right. I mean, considering I made probably 40 or 50 head bows for Techo. Magnets sound cool. I've seen the clips, and I don't know how I feel about the clips. Pinning is the action of a thing being held in place, and what you actually use does not have to be a straight pin. And with it being in the middle of the fabric, I don't know if you could use clips. So now that I've sewn it just on this edge right here, and I'm going to go and sew it on this other edge here. If I wanted to have some kind of contrasting color, I will basically have a channel here in the center at the end, and I could channel, like, put some ribbon through that if I wanted to. Like this one is a it's not a ladder lace, but that's basically what they've done here on this one. If you guys haven't noticed, I'm basically mimicking this head bow that I'm wearing. The nice part is, since I've tacked it on one side, I no longer have to hold it in place. I can just go. Yeah, see, I'm just holding things in place with my hand. Every sewist has their own methods. And I think a lot of it also depends on comfort level. Because you see me here, I'm just whipping through this now. All right, so that's the top. Next, we are going to actually pin the top and the bottom together because that's smart. And I'm here to be smart. I want to make sure that when I'm sewing, that all of the lace here is actually where it needs to be. Nothing gets stuck out in a weird place. So I'm going to actually start pinning it from the two center seams, because ideally I want those to match up the most. All right, there's that. And then I'm going to put a pin probably every 4-ish inches, just because I want to make sure they're not too close so that I get really annoyed, but they're not so far apart that I feel like it's not holding the whole thing together. Oh, tiny. Yeah, I can see how pinning would make you feel, make a human feel like an old-timey person. But like, sewing has become something that is considered more old-timey, which is kind of wild to me. Because it used to be absolutely essential. You had to know how to repair your clothes or how to make clothes, because fast fashion is actually relatively new, and people used to not have as much clothes, and they wouldn't buy it nearly as often. Anyway, I pinned a few points here from the middle going out, and then I pinned the ends together just to make sure they do end up lining up and matching, because they should be the same size. But I learned to sew from my grandmother's. I I only had grandmothers growing up, no grandfathers. And it was nice. I'm glad that they taught me and encouraged me to do that, because now I basically sew full time. And making clothes is just fun. If you haven't tried it, I highly recommend it. That's why I do these live streams, so that maybe I'm not good at patterning. That's not true. I'm good at patterning. I'm not good at like explaining patterning, making of that stuff. I'm not good at showing, like, of explaining how to make a thing, but I'm good at showing how to make a thing. And it's not all that intimidating to actually make something. I use almost entirely, I think like literally all of my main items that I make, that I sew, are patterns I made myself. But I couldn't tell you guys how I make the pattern. I can just show you. That's why I'm like, oh yeah, this is roughly 4 inches wide, and you fold it like this and that. That's what I did in the beginning. Then you cut it, and you sew it back together. I was not satisfied with the placement of that pen. So, fun fact, in university, I was originally an art major, but like an art/art education. And then when I realized real fucking early that I was not going to be a teacher, I dropped out from that. Although if I did go back to university, which I've thought about sometimes, I would probably go back for business, because I run a business. It would be nice to have more of that. Learning to make patterns is fun. It's also like, it's unfortunately sometimes a lot of math. And we know how everyone feels about math, unless you are really into math, which I know some of you are. The real joke to me is, like, I almost failed geometry in high school, and making a pattern is like 110% just geometry. Yeah. All right. This guy, he's a pinned tube all the way down. What I'm going to do, so you can see, this is the side here that is the top, and then this side here is the bottom. Carbonated drink. The bottom part has the stitches where the lace is attached, and so I'm going to sew along the bottom piece, and then I'm going to leave both ends of it open so that I can turn the whole thing out. And then we will have unfinished edges on this side. We can serge them if we want to, but that's not going to be my big concern, because we're going to eventually, there's more steps here, but the next step is we're going to attach the bottom to the top. And if you had attached all of your lace on one side, whatever side has the stitches where the lace is attached is just what you want to sew along, because that is a good guide, so that you make sure all the lace is caught and you're not going to have the lace extra caught in weird ways, if that makes sense. And I'm just going to try and blow through this real fast. So I may or may not take out the straight pins, but you should definitely take out the straight pins. Ignore me. It shifted off track because I decided to pull out a straight pin as I was sewing, and I should not do that. Fine, I'm doing it the proper way. As it is, though, it does go faster because I don't have to hold as much in place. All right, that's one side. Just cutting off some extra threads to make it a little bit easier to work with. I know it's ASMR for some people, the whir of the sewing machine. If anybody loves hearing the sewing machine just going on in the background, I regularly do sew along things on my Discord. I haven't been doing very many of them in the last month because I was out of town for a good portion of July, but I'm going to start doing those up again this month. So if you want to hang out with me while I make stuff on my Discord, there are links on all of my social media stuff that'll take you to my links page, which has the invite link for the Discord. It's usually at least me and maybe one or two other people who sometimes sew. We can all just hang out, be pals, though. It's like this, but with more community engagement, not just the chat box. Which, speaking of community engagement, if you guys would like a craft along live stream where we are literally making the same project at the same time, I can do that next month, and I can release the supplies that are needed for the craft project ahead of time so that we can all just do it together. And there's a good chance the project will be wrist cuffs. Or maybe something else. We'll vote on it in the Discord. All right, so now we have our Headbow tube, and I'm just literally going to turn it out and start stuffing one end inside the other, and then using the lace as a pull to kind of just pull it through. Now, there are a dozen different ways of doing this, but because it's such a wide tube, I'm just going to do it like this. What is Logo Chan for Techo? Look at how cool this is looking so far. Okay, now we have a very long tube of very pretty, very decorated fabric. Oh, that's fun. So now that we have this, if you were just doing a fabric head bow, you could literally not have had done as much length, but because we want to put a wire in it, here is the part where we put a wire in it. So again, if we were ironing things, I would recommend pressing this with a cloth over it, because all of this lace that's on here is polyester. So you could press either the back side. Again, I would put some kind of a cloth on there and do it at not a very high temperature. But for me, I'm just gonna press it down flat as much as I can. Pull it and press it. Also because I just really do not like ironing, guys. I don't know how many times. Oh no, okay, see, this is why you have to be careful when you're pinning stuff in place. The lace caught right here when we were sewing. Trying to decide if I care enough. I should care. If I keep this head bow, then I'm not going to care. Okay, this will be a learning experience. If you have caught your lace like this when you were sewing it, did I catch it any other places real quick? No, just that one spot. So we know that the lace is attached to the back side. We're going to take, where's my big seam ripper? We're going to take a seam ripper as soon as I locate one. Oop. I'm going to keep bumping into, this is the other camera right here, guys. We're going to take our seam ripper, and by pulling on to just the top bit, you can find which stitches are the ones that are attaching it to the top side. And I'm just going to undo one in the middle and pull on it to give it a little bit of room, and it'll let go of those stitches that are holding that the lace where we don't want it. There it is. That's free now. So that's free now, but we do have this small little hole now because we've opened this up right here. And do I have a hand needle right here? What I'm going to do is just a really quick whip stitch, or we can use the sewing machine and just do a quick top stitch right there, which might be, in this specific instance, the best course of action. Figuring out exactly where it needs to go. Alright. If I wanted to, I could just like make that a continuous stitch along the whole side so it doesn't seem out of place. But with the way we're going to pleat it and have the whole thing done, I don't think this will be noticeable on the finished item. If I had a sewing machine by hand, I would just literally sew that hole closed by hand. So, oh no, I found another spot. No, that one's not as noticeable. That's fine. Did it right here too. So, that whole thing aside, we're going to put now the channels for the actual elastic. I want the channels to be about 1/4 of an inch wide, and we're going to use just basic, this is gardening wire. I bought this, what is it? They don't even tell me how long it is. It's just a 1/2 pound of gardening wire for about $10. It was maybe $10 at Joann's. You can get it at any craft area. I've also used, this is actual gardening wire from the Dollar Tree. This is a much thinner gauge. It comes in rolls like this. This is actually mostly used. But I like the weight and the gauge of the other one. Also, this green can sometimes show through if you're not using a dark colored fabric. So let's go ahead and put our channels in, and we're going to do that just by lining up the edge of where the lace attaches and sewing a straight line. I am going to sort of pull this to make sure that it's flat and straight as I'm going. There, we have one channel completed. I'm just going to go ahead and switch and do the other side now. Now each side has a channel, and what we're going to do is we're going to take our piece and lay it down flat. We're going to grab, these are just regular pliers, but they have wire cutter bits in them, and we're going to figure out where the end of this wire is. I think it's this guy up here. And we're going to unroll probably about an inch more than what we actually need. Okay. Let me go ahead and do a second one. This is 22 gauge, by the way. I don't think I had mentioned what the actual gauge of it was, just that I liked it. The other one I have is more of a 26. All right, so now we have two pieces of wire. Oh, now I have one piece of wire and one piece of wire that it's on the floor. I'm going to go ahead and straighten them out as much as I can. And I'm going to take one end and I'm going to turn it until it is, I'm going to turn it 3 times until I have a rounded edge. I don't know how well you guys can see that. So that there is no sharp bit right there. And the very sharp bit is kind of tucked in the middle and like pointing downward. And I'm going to just go ahead and feed this through my channel. If I can get it in there. This is why I keep cutting the stray threads, because that's what makes this more difficult. So for the most part, it goes in pretty easily until you get to the center bit where you have the two fabrics joined. This is the one point where it actually is better to sew it out of just one piece of continuous fabric than to use two pieces that are sewn together at the middle. Because now I'm going to struggle for a few minutes to get it through where that fabric is actually folded. There is something of a trick to pressing that fabric bit actually open as you try and go through it. It is a trick though. And when all else fails, which does happen on occasion, I have a loop turner. I don't know if you guys can see him. And what it is it's a tiny little hook on one end. And the challenge is just making sure I'm on the right side of wherever that fabric himself is. Why is the inside of this so messy that I'm having a hard time going through it all? Welcome to my tutorial, guys, where I struggled to do the thing I'm trying to show you guys how to do. How are you stuck? There we go. I don't know what that just got stuck on. Anyway. I was able to get it past that point, and now I just grab onto the wire using this guy and not the fabric. Usually I do not have this level of trouble, and Chris will back me up on this. Struggling is a part of the process. Hopefully we don't have any blood on this project. That would be a new low for me. At the very least, can I get this guy? Well, that plan has not worked the way I planned it to. I'm not entirely sure what the wire is caught on that he cannot go through, because the loop turner made it through, and then the loop turner got caught on something. And now I don't want to go and put the loop turner back through it. If all else fails, you just do two pieces of wire. I have also sewn a pin inside of a garment before, more than once, and you just rip open the garment and you fetch the pin out. That's all you can do. French seams is just painful though. Yeah, okay, so where we stand right now is that this guy does not want to go past the middle, which means I just go in and I do it from the other side. We'll do the other side correctly. What's important is that there is wire in the edges of our head bow, guys. This is the same spot that the loop turner was having a trouble, I think. Okay, well, I know this spot is a trouble because there's extra lace caught right there. It ended up being just short, but I think it's fine. All right. Lace is in, not lace. Wire's in on that side. Put the wire in on the other side, and hopefully that won't be also a big struggle. Maybe what happened was, I think one side, the fabric actually got folded as I was sewing. I wonder if that was the side where the fabric got folded. In theory, that should actually make life easier, not harder, though, so I'm not sure what's the story with that. All right. Yeah, Chris will tell you, like, when Chris is over here helping me make stuff, they're the one who is struggling to get stuff through, and then I come out and, like, whoop, it's done. Like, no problem. Literally no problem. But then we also don't typically have as much bulk on the inside of our channels because I don't typically sandwich them. I do them a lot simpler. One went through no problem. This is how it's supposed to go, guys. It does take time, but it's not supposed to be a 15-minute endeavor to just get it through on one side. I don't know what happened over there. Like, I'd have to rip it open to figure it out even. And that's okay. We don't need to know that badly. So now what I would typically do when I get to this point where I'm almost done, I'm going to put like a little bend in the end so that I don't lose one end inside of the guy. I'm just going to inch it down. All right. Now he's wired. I'm going to go ahead and take this one end that I left just slightly bent and bend it a little bit more. Because what I actually want these things to do is I want them to sort of grab onto the end of the fabric and have the loop just kind of hold it in place. Now we're going to take the two ends of our big long guy, attach the nice sides together, and then we're going to sew the whole thing closed at last. Closed at last. Because I've used this nice lace on here, I'm also going to sew that lace into the seam. What I've done first is just pin the two edges in place, and then I'm going to take the edges of the lace and pin that down on both sides so that it makes kind of a rounded shape. Then I repin, do the same thing to the other side. This way we just don't have any raw edges actually showing. The not noticing is what gets me. Like, how do you not notice this? Like, I guess it just didn't stab you, and that's the answer. That's how you don't notice a pin being sewn into your sleeve for 10 years. All right. Back stitch there. And back stitch again. So I did a back stitch on the actual lace, and then I did a back stitch on the cotton. All right. Now we have an unwieldy tube. It's not cute yet, but give it a minute, okay? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trim all of these extra ugly, like strangly bits off of him. Okay, but the question is, how did you end up noticing the pin that had lived in the sleeve for 10 years? Did he finally betray you and stab you? Had he just not decided you were worthy of betrayal yet? Did you do something one day to piss off the sweater and then that was it? He's like, they have to pay. I'm going to fold where the wire is back just so that the seam is open. That one doesn't have a wire. Okay. All right, so we're going to take this guy and we're going to set him aside now for a few minutes. I see that as I continue to play with it. I turn him right side out. The circle of frill. Okay. One more thing. We're going to take the seam that we just made and we're going to attach it to the center seam on the other side. We're not going to physically attach it. I'm just going to pin it in place for right now. Because that's why I do it in two pieces, because then you have a very obvious, this is the middle. Like, this is the middle. There's no questions asked. This is the middle. It finally stabbed you. The great betrayal. For anybody watching the replay, sorry, I'm talking to the chat. There was a straight pin that was sewn inside of a sleeve for 10 years until the bitter and inevitable betrayal when it stabbed them. All right, that's center. Now, you remember those skinny guys that we did at the beginning of this? We only need one of them, which means we have a practice one, and then we have the real one. I'm only going to need one of them, but then you guys can have two. So, I'm going to use the other one. That one's on the salvage. So, what we're going to do is you can just pre-buy headbands that are already covered. This one's a nice satin that is a soft pink that would look fine with the headbow we have. Or you can buy headbows that are just plastic and meant to be covered. So if you need a guide, what you can do is fold your fabric in half and like press it against here, and then just take a pen and mark where you need how wide you need your stitches to be. You can do it with a pen if your pen actually works. This pen works sometimes. He does not work right now. Give me a pencil. Oh, this is a black pen. This one will work. Sort of. Okay. And you can just mark where you need it to be. And you could do that the whole way down if you're a person who needs markings to help you make sure you're staying in the lane you need to be in. I'm just going to go rogue and sew it straight down. So we're going to make the cover for that machine. And you remember the loop turner I pulled out earlier? He's actually going to be extremely helpful in this next bit, because I know you can turn things with a safety pin. I don't think it's very easy or fun. I don't enjoy it. I use the chopstick method if I don't have a loop turner. However, a loop turner is $4 or $5 off of WWAC. If you guys don't know what WWAC is, send me a message after this and I will send you a link. They are a sewing supply seller, and you can get one of these for literally $5 and it'll get to you tomorrow. You can also get them off Amazon, but it's called a loop turner. If you sew channels and things that need to be turned out, highly recommend it. So, okay, we're going to real quick make the cover for the headband before we continue on with the actual headband. And it is just sewing a straight line with this guy folded in half. So this guy is actually longer than what we need for the headband, and the excess from him will be what we use to actually finish and close off our head bow. So throw him on the ground, take the loop turner, put it on him. It's kind of like making a sausage. And then I'm going to catch it onto that seam, and then just make sure that hook is closed. And this is why I love loop turners. Done with that. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to measure and see how much of this loop we actually do need for the headband. right. So what I'm going to do is I've measured it so that we've got just about a centimeter or a little under half an inch, like a quarter of an inch from where the headband actually ends and then where the end of the fabric is. I'm going to do that on the other side. I get all of my good lace either from AliExpress or manufacturers that also have Etsy accounts, and I get most of my lace is made overseas. The lace supplier I really like is called Livestream Wholesaler on Etsy, but then I buy, you know, $400 worth of lace in each order, and that's not for everyone. So I'm trying to look for, let me get the seam ripper. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to, I folded it down and then I'm tucking the ends into the actual headband. You can kind of see right here how I've just tucked it in. And so what you can do from here is either sew it, which is what I will do, but probably off camera. I'll just do some quick hand stitches there to close that hole. And then yeah, that's all you have to do for the headband. It's real freaking easy. I say as I'm struggling to get the other one actually to go in there. It's not difficult, but it can be, you know, when the fabric wants to fight you. Take a moment. There you go. Not that long at all, actually. And I'm sure like you can do this with not, I don't recommend doing it with the seam ripper because it is a blade, but I just needed something that was a little bit pointy but like blunt. So like I've used my scissors to do this as well. That's the headband. You could also just put a dab of hot glue, or you could, instead of tucking it inside, leave it a little bit longer and flip it twice and then stitch it down so it's a straight line. This is the excess of the tube that we just made. And I'm going to take this tube, and we have here the center of the head bow. Take that pin off, and I'm just going to straighten him out a little bit. And I'm going to press it up and then tuck the edges underneath him. Gather the lace down. And I'm going to take this bit, fold it not quite in half, and then the little overlap bit will be at the bottom. The longer bit goes underneath, and then you take the top part that's folded and you wrap that down and around. Everything from here on out is hand sewing. So I'm just gonna pin this in place for me to do later off stream. Now we have this absolutely ridiculous thing, and you're like, wait, that can't be it. That can't be the entire thing. The rest of this is all styling. So we have wire that runs to the entire edge of it. The way I like to set these up is I grab it just about an inch away from the center. I pull it up on one side, and then I grab the other side and I pull it up. So it's kind of making a square shape right here. I do the same thing to the other side. Grab the top and bottom, pull it up, pull it up. Now I've got 2 squares, and then I'm going to measure about 2 or 3 inches down, and then about an inch down again, and I'm going to tuck that 1 inch part underneath that 3 or 4 inch segment. Just pressing everything flat for now. And then I'm going to go and do basically the same thing for underneath that. And now this side is set up basically like the headbow that I'm wearing. On the other side, so, and you can play with these proportions a bit. I'm actually going to, because this is not the proportions that I prefer. I'll make it a little bit longer. Now, what you can do if you don't want to have to fiddle with your headbow every 5 seconds is you can tack this part where the fold is initially to the top part. Just do a few quick stitches right there. I prefer to leave them floating because then there's a lot more control in the shape that you have when you do that. I like them to be a little bit puffy, but that's how you style the headbow. I don't know what camera people are looking at. I don't know which camera I'm currently looking at. I'll go ahead and do the other side. Should I go ahead and do one of the simpler ones, guys? We've been here for an hour and a half. All right. There is the finished headbow. Obviously, I need to put it on the headband, but I'm going to finish sewing the center bit of the headbow and the bottom bit of the cuffs off screen. But that is, yeah, he is super, super fluffy. This is definitely like the extra deluxe version of my usual guy. So the way I usually make these is I batch do them. So here is a streamer of 4 white ones, and this is 4. This is not 2 because I use 2 of each. I've used 2 of these to make the white one. But when I typically make them, what I do is I will have a single strip, which I then serge the edges of just to finish it, and then there's a pink one. I attach the lace and I simply tack that down on one side. So it's not enclosed because this lace is much shorter, it's much simpler, and it does hide the serge edges most of the time. And then from there, I just put some, oof. What are you caught on, buddy? Like, do you mind, sir? There we go. Nope, still, they're very good friends right now. And so this is the exact same thing. It's just only a single piece of fabric instead of 2 pieces of fabric. And this is waiting to be shaped because typically I sew down the center bit before I shape them because I'm going to have to like spread them open to stitch that down. But this is how I make headbows, guys. I'm slowly giving you guys all my trade secrets. I can go find a hand needle and thread if you want to continue to sit here, and we can hand make some more of the simpler style ones. It's literally the same process as what we have been doing and what we've gone through and done thus far. But were there any questions otherwise? I can do some more wire while I wait for any potential questions. Okay, wait. This is the bow I made. Don't even need the headband. What do you think, guys? I know that the lighting is a little strong. It is a really good blue. I only had, I think, 2 of them at Teco, and although you came first thing, it could have just been that they were tucked away and maybe you missed it. I will eventually have these on my website, not just at events, which lately, like, they've honestly only been at events thus far, because I haven't taken any stock photos of them, and that's literally the only thing that is keeping them not on the website. Because I have been making them. I plan to have a few dozen at Dragon Con. I will have some at Dragon Con. There are a few dozen that are already with my South Carolina stockist, person who holds and maintains my stock. I already have a few dozen with them, and I'm trying not to fly with too much stock this year for Dragon Con, but sorry, I keep hitting the guy. Keep tucking this back on my head. I will have them at Dragon Con. Yes, you have. You've seen many of them, Shanna. I've only been making these since June. I think June was the first event I made them for. So it's a relatively new item for me and my shop. I'm planning on doing a few additional styles. Akon, I think, was the first one I made them for. The dealer's hall is really hard for ADHD, at least for me, because there's so much to see, and you also feel rushed because, like, sometimes people have the VIP badge, and so you only get like an extra hour or an extra 30 minutes before the hordes descend on the hall. This one's a softer pink than the one I just made. And I continue to have a problem at the middle. How weird. Usually it's not a problem for me at all. But today, because I'm on camera, I cannot get this through. I got it through on the other side. Okay. Well, I'm putting that down. Let's see if there are any other questions. Yay! Everything on your wish list. I did just finish fixing. There was one additional macaron. There was one macaron dress I did make, but the shirring just did not catch properly when I was sewing it, and I didn't notice until we got to the con. So that's the one that I think was posted on social media today. I am planning a full release of this Pardon My French series, which I was cutting out cheese dresses today, That's going to be a tiered skirt. The macaron dress is going to be a solid skirt. And then I'm doing the French Farmyard, which will also be a solid color skirt. White wrist cuff set. Do I have any white donut wrist cuffs right now? Those are blue donuts. Those are white dots. Those are purple donuts. Those are white candies. I don't have any white donuts right now, but I usually do the restock for those at the end of the year. I try and only do like 2, maybe 3 big lace orders in a year, and my next lace order to restock on all of the designs I need, including the donut one, will be, oh wait, actually, that's not the wrist cuff bag. I have a bunch of wrist cuffs that are ready to be made. Whenever you're ready for donut wrist cuffs, there it is. No, that's not it either. I have a bag full of wrist cuffs that are already cut and just waiting to be sewn. And I have to, oh, now he is stuck in my hair. Okay. Once I find him, I can tell you if I have donut lace in stock to make, or if it has to wait until the restock. Okay. What do you look for in a lace that'll play nice for a headbow? The width of it. So one of the reasons why I chose the lace that I was using for this headbow is because it's slightly too short for what I want for my dresses. That's the reason why this dress is actually being sold as a sample dress, because you see this lace and how it's standing up like that? Like, that's kind of cute, but that's not how I want my lace to stand up. Because it is about 26 millimeters wide, it's like at its widest point, it's 23, I think, to 26. It looks really cute when it's gathered shortly, and it is not so heavy that it won't hold itself up with its own weight. But the problem is, it's not so, I usually would use a longer lace in this application in the very front here on this dress, because then the weight of it will pull it down some. The only way if I wanted this to stay down would be to top stitch it, which I have been tempted to do, and I just have not done that yet. But the width, and then also the theme. So like for both of the laces I chose, they have a dot theme going on here. These laces are not a true white, they're an off-white, but it's very close. The one in the center is definitely more of a creamier off-white than the ones on the edges, but I don't think it's that noticeable in this lighting, and I don't think it'll be noticeable at all on my head. Top stitching, so for this dress, what I've done is I've done a stay stitch on the inside, but doing a top stitch right here would just literally tack it down, but that means it wouldn't have as much movement to it, which is something that I don't like to restrict when I'm making lace on things. But that would keep it from popping up completely. Yeah. I have probably 1,000 yards of lace in my house that haven't been made into things yet. So I tend to just use what I have on hand, and I am a compulsive lace shopper. So I literally have about 7 different options that I can grab that are sitting around me. I highly recommend, having a hoard of craft supplies. If you have the space for it, of course. I do have my bookshelf of fabric that has been restocked, and I have just yardage all over the place, as well as bins, multiple bins of lace, so that whatever project I'm working on, I always have something that will work for that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the top cam because it's very distracting. Okay. Okay, sorry guys. I forgot that the top cam was attached to the mic. So I took off the top cam, and that took off the sound as well. But now we have whatever the sound quality is here, because it wouldn't be one of my videos if we didn't have a weird sound issue happen. Okay, what was I saying? Let me know if you have any more questions. We've been going for about 2 hours now, and I'll probably stick around for at least the next 10 minutes. If you want to vote on next month's DIY live stream for what we make, join my Discord. I will get the invite link and drop that into the discussion in a moment. And when you guys are watching this on the replay, I will have that in the description below. Give me the one link. I want the link. Of course, I don't actually know how to run my own Discord server because I have people for that. How do I copy this? Okay, well, I'm just going to have to, if you guys aren't in the Discord server now, go to my social media and the links will be there, or watch this on the replay. The type of wire that I use for the Headbow. Yeah, Chris is one of the people who runs my Discord. It's regular garden wire. I have 2 different kinds that I use. There's this one from the Dollar Tree that's like a 26 gauge. This one is very soft, very pliable. It's fine. It's not my favorite. The one I used today was a 22 gauge galvanized steel wire. It's from the gardening section at Joann's. They don't sell it by, I don't even know how much measure it is. They sold it as the half pound of wire. I find it's a 22 gauge is very good. You can use jewelry wire for this. It's just more expensive. And just jewelry wire, I think in theory probably is better if you want to be able to get it wet. If you plan to wash your head bows, if you are a person who sweats and doesn't wash your hair very often and needs to wash your head bows, I would recommend using a more aluminum weighted type content of wire, or something that's is actually a jewelry wire that is meant to be against skin, so it's less likely to rust, because the galvanized wire that I use will rust if it stays wet. So that's the only thing about that. I do like the 22 gauge though, and I like the steel because it's a lot stronger than aluminum wire. Aluminum wire is really flexible. And this is flexible without feeling like it's gonna just pop off. The 26 feels like it's made out of radits, and I can't stop saying that. If you guys haven't ever watched Dragon Ball Z, maybe you don't get that reference, but that's okay. This Poobie Headbow that I'm making is made with the thinner wire, and it's fine. It bends very easily. So when wearing it, you may have to reshape it while you're wearing it, as opposed to the 22 gauge, which before you put it on, you're going to have to shape it. But after you have it on, like while it's on your head, unless you really slam your head into something, which I do not recommend, it'll be fine. Yeah, this is made with that Dollar Tree gardening wire, because I cannot stop going to the Dollar Tree, even though their prices went up. I was there just yesterday. I ended up at 2 of them. I got my stabs, and there was one down the street that I knew of. And the last time I went, I bought, this is all ribbon. I like their ribbon that they have there. It's not a bad measure for the price. I only grabbed like 40 spools of ribbon. And hand sanitizer wipes. This was the other thing I got from the second one I went to. Yeah, it's $1.25 here now. I think they across the nation went up to $1.25. I also got this cool mirror for the booth. I've had a few of these in the past, but this one's like a nice periwinkle color. Love it. Alas, inflation. For sure. It is bound to get all of us. I mean, it already has in many different ways. But it got the Dollar Tree finally. No longer $1. He's joined the ranks of the Dollar General and the Family Dollar, where they are no longer $1 stores. The end of an era. I don't know where my hand needles are. I would just sit here and hand sew some stuff while we wait for wrap up, because I've decided I'm waiting for wrap up. Wait, watch there be one. There's one attached to the cone. I love those mirrors. I think I have 3 of them right now. I have a black one and a white one and now the periwinkle one. That was just like a unique color, because I've seen the black and the white ones for years. But that periwinkle was real nice. I'll go ahead and finish this guy maybe in the 6 minutes we have. So here's a question for the live stream people, and also for anybody watching the replay. Leave a comment below. What do you like about these sew-along craft streams? What is your favorite part, basically? Like, is it just the hanging out and chatting? Is it watching somebody do something? What part do you most enjoy about these craft-alongs? There's a lot of you here right now. I'm impressed. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me this evening. Trying real hard not to be a true chaos demon. At some point, I'm going to start including freaking brand tags on these headbows, but not today. Just hanging out. That does not surprise me, Phyllis, because we do that pretty regularly. Brain goblins. Which, if doing this kind of stuff helps with the brain goblins, again, if you haven't been hanging out in the Discord voice chats, I highly recommend it, because it's typically at least 2 or 3 people who are working on different various projects, one of them being me, and you get to see me in my full, goblin ADHD brain glory. That is more the hangout that Phyllis was talking about. Shanna, you should join my Discord if you're not in it. Join my Discord. I like teaching people things. That's why I do the live streams. I'm telling you, though, what's going to happen with one of these live streams is it's just going to be me for an hour sitting here making buttons with my button maker, my pin badge button maker, because let me tell y'all, I really like making button badges with my pin maker because it's instant gratification. It's like, I'm making the thing is made. The Discord is also great for having the encouragement, because there are multiple people who are working on different projects as well. It definitely helps as like a motivator to keep everybody on task. And also, I truly am grateful for all the people in my Discord group. I do have such a wealth of knowledge there with my fans and friends who have joined. I did not pull these threads evenly, so now I'm trying to fix that. There we go. Okay. Yes, more buttons. My partner Chris is currently creating a whole bunch of really cool, fun, new badge designs in my medium and large size, and I'll probably at some point add an additional size that is in between the the 1-inch ones and the 1.73, I think is what it is. Yes! Rainbow Cockinades! Oh man, that could be a collab. We could make that happen. You make them, I supply the badges. Although, speaking of, you have no idea how many badges I have right now. It is currently 9 o'clock, and I'm just a few stitches away from finishing this. But for everyone who's here in the chat, if you want to continue this chat, I'm just going to go hop over straight onto the Discord server once I end this out. So I hope you all will join me there. If you are not currently a member of my Discord, as I've said a few times, go to my Instagram, go to my Facebook, go to my links page, links.agatodesigns.com, and that has the invite link for my Discord already on it. And it'll take you straight there, and because I'll be active and Chris seems to be active,
we will get you rolled real fast so you can enjoy the rest of the server. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I also just finished the Headbow. So if you want to see the final reveal, I know I said this about the last one, but if you want to see the final reveal, go check it out on the Instagram and on the Discord, because I'm going to go post it right now. See you guys. Bye. Have a good night.